picking up the phone is the biggest thing people can do right now. You find out so much about the other agent, you find out about the buyer, the seller, you have so much more like information and power to go back with to your client or to that realtor when you're doing those negotiations.
Welcome back. Today we're speaking with Elizabeth McNally. She is in Medicine Hat, Alberta. She does about 250 sales a year, just under 100 million in sales volume every year. So big producer here. She has 3 agents, 3 admin, and she has 3 full-time stagers as well working with her as well. She built her business through sphere of influence, and she was an early adopter of social media as well. And she invests in rentals, so she eats her own cooking, so to speak, as well. She sells homes and she invests in real estate as well. Elizabeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, very cool to have another podcaster with us here today. I know we were talking a little bit because I know you have your own show as well, and we'll chat a little bit about that. But why don't we start with a little bit about your background and what actually got you into real estate?
Okay. Well, I guess quite a few years ago, I'm 20 plus years in the business now. I had been just dabbling. I had a little store. I was a head shop. I don't know if anyone knows what that is anymore. I don't think they call them that, but we sold things and I made stuff. And I actually I was kind of going broke at the time. I needed to come up with some cash. And so I talked, it was back when mortgages were easy to get. And I convinced someone that they should help me get into a property. So I bought a house, redid the hardwood floors, painted it, and sold it. I made $10,000 to pay back my grandma. And after that, I thought, this is something maybe I should get into. I was just kind of trying to figure something out after I closed my store down. And my dad had been in real estate in the 90s, early 90s, late 80s. And he just was kind of an inspiration. My parents had always been renovating apartment buildings and houses. And that was the first step. I thought, what the heck, I should try this out.
Amazing. Well, you get the idea. So you're investing in some real estate, and then you get the idea about selling as well. So that idea to actual execution. So in that first year jumping in. So a lot of times there's a little bit of I know for me, there was a very rocky beginning. Like we maxed out our credit cards. I actually had to go to Joanna's father at one point and ask to borrow $1,000 for a week until we had that check come in. And so he did that, and then I paid him back a week later. But I had to swallow my pride for that because he's a strong Polish business guy, and I wanted to show him that I could look after his daughter. But he anyway, so that was a rocky start for me. So I'm curious, how about you? You had this idea and then you jumped in. So what happened next?
Well, I was working for my parents part-time in property management as well. So it was an easy transition. They had an office space so I could spend time there. I didn't have to rent an office at the local brokerage. And my dad really mentored me through it. So as far as I was still bringing in a bit of an income, which was really helpful because yeah, it was expensive in the beginning. And I didn't realize what it was going to take to actually get clients, right? Like I had no idea. It was just kind of, and you get your license and go. And so, asking people for the work, essentially talking to people, that was really scary. My first sale happened, I think I was 3 months in. And so I was really grateful for my parents' support at that point. So, yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can keep going. And where did you start generating? Like, what was your main source as you continued on in the business of generating, we'll say business leads, we can call it, but appointments and agreements? Where were the sources of those, and how did you generate them?
Well, the initial sources came from people I'd just been talking to and being excited about the business. I call it new agent energy. Like people really want to work with a first, like that new agent, right? Someone's excited, they're new, they want to give them an opportunity, which I always tell agents that are getting into the business, like, this is the best year. You can just like dive into the fact that you're new to it. And people want to work with people who are excited about something and they want to help them. They want to see them succeed, right? And so I felt like I really had support from my friends and that group, that network, you know? Um, my dad had given me some advice, which actually really helped me through it as well. He said, don't expect friends and family to use you. So if you don't expect it, then you're not going to be disappointed if they don't. And so I just kind of breezed through. So if people wanted to work with me, it was perfect. I always said yes. I worked really hard. Like I was basically picking up the phone whenever I had to. I would open house. I would do whatever it took. So that's basically how I got it. Word of mouth. People were like, "Oh, this girl works really hard." So,
It's so good. I totally agree with you about that. I love how you put it, new agent energy. I never really heard of it that way, but it's so true. It's like this enthusiastic and excitement. Like this is something
yeah.
that, as an agent, that when you're in the business for many years, and you go through, we'll say, certain markets that are easier, and certain markets you have to put in twice the amount of work to be able to maintain that enthusiasm and excitement. I think is like it's like a superpower. And so this is where I guess, but here's my follow-up question is, how do you how do you maintain that enthusiasm as an agent? I mean, you sell 250 sales a year. You came on and you have, like, there's an energy about you that I felt. How do you maintain it, and then how do you recommend the listeners out there maintain that enthusiasm and excitement?
Well, that's a great question. Sometimes it's hard, but I am constantly trying new things. So I'm always excited about what's next, what's new. So I was an early adopter to social media. Facebook started happening and it was crickets in the beginning, but I just kept pursuing it. Um, we started getting excited about staging properties and showcasing our properties so that people felt excited about them and then came and purchased them. I always had the, always thought that, billboards and bus benches, they were expensive in the beginning for me. So that wasn't something that I even looked into doing. But I was able to use my tools, which were like my hands and my enthusiasm to make properties look better and showcase them better. And so that's basically what we did. So we just are constantly throwing spaghetti at the wall until it sticks, I guess, for lack of a better term. And it kind of it gets me excited, you know?
Well, Elizabeth, that's great that you saw. Listen, like, I don't have the funds to go out and do all the billboards and everything, but I'm going to add value to clients, and so going and really focusing on staging. So that's something very tangible that clients can see, and then you're super likable as well. So you used a strength and doubled down on the things that just didn't cost much other than your time, and which is, to me, that makes a lot of sense, is to use the strengths that you have. And so that started to build business, to build your business up as well. And so you started right at the beginning, it sounds like, having staging as one of your main kind of centerpieces of
Hmm.
your services that you provide to your clients.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we dove right into it, but we didn't really tell anybody that that's what we were doing. Um, I didn't market it. It wasn't something that we were advertising, but the buying and selling public started noticing that our listings were looking different and nicer than the other listings that were coming out. I mean, more and more people are using it now, which it's basically common, but at the time it was a very new
Yeah.
practice. And so we built up our business that way for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's, you can do staging every so often, but when you do it consistently, you create a brand like you've done. And it's interesting how clients, they start saying, "Hey, like, Elizabeth's listings they all look really good. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
brand there." And then they start talking about it, and then they look to their own agent and say, "Do you stage homes like this too?" And it's like, "Oh, I guess I have to now."
That's basically what's happened. That's
Yeah.
I've actually had a couple of agents in town offer to pay me not to stage.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. You're making me look bad. Stop doing that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
right. Yeah.
no, I'm going to keep looking at the clients, right?
Well, and
Um,
the cool part is it's just, you're working so hard, you're doing the very best we can for our clients because it's location, which you can't change. You can change, how your property is presented and the price. So if we hammer home how it looks, then if there's any issue, it's potentially just the only thing is the price that you can adjust at that point, right?
yeah. Yeah.
So.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so you're generating business now. Take us through what, say, like a typical listing process looks like. So a client calls you up and says, "Hey, Elizabeth, I love what you do. We're thinking about selling. Come on over." What does that process look like?
Well, we start off by the initial meeting. So I go in, take a look at the house, meet the clients, ask them what their expectations are, their goals and dreams are for the property. Um, then we do a walk around. So a bit of a walk and talk. I'll make some suggestions how to prep and get ready. But then once they're ready to go, we'll send in my lead stager and they dial in even further as far as giving advice, how to prep and get ready for them and what the expectations are. That day we get in there, we stage, we get our photos, we do our 3D tour, and then we do sneak peeking. We have a whole system behind it. So we sneak peek it. Our social media is really heavy. We've got a really big following on our Facebook page, and that's just from that early adoption. So I'm quite fortunate that way. We've got realtors and the community following it pretty extensively. We're about 10% of the community as far as numbers go. So we're really proud of that. And then we're able to get as many eyes on it as possible.
Mm, very cool. So take us through the early adoption, and what would you recommend to an agent that's maybe starting social media today?
Be consistent. I feel like pick the platform you really like. Um, I'm heavy into Facebook and Instagram. Those are the two platforms that I like and use myself, so I'm comfortable there. And I would just consistently be posting. Don't be worried about making mistakes. I think you hear that all the time, but it's actually really true. People aren't going to see what you did down the road, even in a couple of days. You can delete it, just consistency and do something that you enjoy because you're going to be doing it for a long time. And, you know, be willing to change, be willing to take on new things, try different things out. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. Just move on.
How often, what frequency do you recommend to post?
To post. Oh man, I would definitely try to post once to twice a day for sure. I mean, there's the stories applications where you can post as many times as you want. You can share content from other, other agents in town. You can share local content, collaborate with your community. I'm really interested, like, that's my main source of business is, in my mind, collaborative community effort. Um, so yeah, I think posting as much as you can, but also being intentional about it. You want to show work, you want to show a little bit of personal, and then I would suggest showing support for the community you live in.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's so much there. I mean, not only do the business owners buy and sell homes, but they have staff that buy and sell homes, and then they have their own raving fans that love them. And when you're cross promoting like that, it totally makes sense. So you can even take that same concept into, all of your Rolodex, right? So all
Oh
of your
yeah.
lawyers and cleaners and your accountants and your whole power team, right? You can go down that road as well. But like, tell me, there's you need to be intentional with this sort of thing, right? And so are there any like tips on execution with making all that happen? Like, I love the idea of that as well. And I think that home buyers and sellers love the idea of their realtor being really connected to the community as well. But there's one thing that's like talk and agree to it, and for the listeners out there, maybe like, are there any, you've been consistent with it, so
Yeah.
let's talk about like execution of making that happen. What's helped you be consistent with it?
Well, for me, I would say I'm driven to be consistent with it because I love it. I love my community and I want to support it. It started with my passion for my downtown. I feel like most centers, their downtowns are starting to get a little quieter, depending on the size of their community. And I really like that sort of kitschy, unique stores, not all the big box, which I mean, they're great too and they have their place. But my drive was to sort of focus in on, and it probably stems from my having my own shop before I got into real estate. I really wanted to support them, right? So I came up with this really cool idea. Well, I think it's really cool. I call it it's my coffee card, basically. So it's like a gift certificate, but it's a local promotion certificate. So I work with different businesses and we develop a gift card that we can give away, but we give it to our clients as a gift, but I don't get billed for it until it has been used. So that was one thing that I started early on, and I've always been super stoked about it because I mean it's so nice to be able to give somebody something like showing them some appreciation. So we started out with that, and then just you know basically if there's anything happening in our city, I'm pumped about it. So we go on site, we take videos, we collaborative post, we feature people, anything you enjoy doing. I feel like people should do things that they're interested in. You want it, people can see if it's authentic, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And so the gifts, when you give them away, are they just more so kind of one-off kind of wow gifts, or is it like a consistent like closing gift? That, and I like that idea how you structure it as well, that you don't get charged until they actually go and pick it, they utilize it. But like, what would be the examples that you would be giving those gifts away?
Well, basically throughout the process, right? So when I meet with a client for the first time, I've got my listing or my buyer presentation with me. I've got a folder, I've got all the information as well as the information about what our services that we offer. And in there, I've always got my gift certificates with me, my gift cards. And then it's a really cool opportunity to be able to talk to them about that specific business. So, oh, have you ever been to the roastery? And they say, no, I haven't ever been there. Oh, it's downtown. It's a friend of mine. She roasts her own beans. She has her own farm down in, Guatemala, things like that. Like it really starts the conversation and it encourages them to go to a place in the city that maybe they haven't been or they don't go, right? So we start with that, and that's the initial touch point. And then when, depending throughout the process, sometimes we'll send flowers as like a congratulations, you've got an accepted offer, and just different touch points throughout the process. There's nothing really ever huge, I wouldn't say, it's just small touch points, local.
Yeah. So Elizabeth, there's genius in what you're doing here. And so it's interesting because they call it like there's Chip Heath wrote this book, The Power of Moments. And at that point, they're more emotionally charged. They meet you, they're excited to meet you, right? And you're talking about, say, new business. So not only you're promoting a local business and sending business that way, so you're building up, we'll call it like thick ice, is what we like calling relationships, like build thick ice up with them, or making deposits into relationships. So you're making a deposit into the local roastery there, for example, but yeah, and you're supporting your community, so it's deepening your brand that you're doing, but you're giving as well, so there's the role of reciprocity, so you're giving at that moment, but you're giving something at a time where they're more emotionally charged at that. And so I love it that you're tying it together, set times throughout the process as well, and then being intentional about that on a consistent basis. To me, it's smart. And like you said, like it doesn't cost a lot of money. Like certain things are not like big things, but I found that wow moments don't need to be super costly. They need to be intentional and then coming from the heart.
I totally agree with that. The closing gift, a lot of times you get to know those people during the process of their buy or their sell, and you can personalize it. And whatever it is, it doesn't have to be expensive. It can just be thoughtful.
Yeah, so good. I love
And
it.
I was taught early on that by telling people that you want to go to work for them and showing them gratitude and appreciation goes a long way. So,
Yeah, 100%. It's like this person's hungry and he actually wants to do the job versus like the guy feels like he feels like it felt like I'm doing him or he's doing us a favor, and the agent walks in and it's like, kind of the nose is up. It's like I'm doing you a favor by being here. And it's like people hate that. And that's where you had said it, new agent energy. This is where the new agent's like, listen, I'm going to go to the wall for you. I'm going to do everything. It's like, give me a shot here. I want a shot. And it's like especially the ones that have been through a lot, like maybe they built their business or whatever, and they remember what it was like. They're more likely to give that young hungry person or agent or just name the profession an opportunity.
mhm.
And so I totally agree with that. What you were saying there. Um, so Okay, so we got we're in the appointment. We now that to me is a great customer service nugget right there. We were talking about presentations, but how about let's talk about negotiation now. What's kind of your philosophy? Are there any things that you do like you're very intentional when you go into a negotiation to get a good result for the client?
I've, I would say that I'm just really optimistic that I'm going to get something done. Like let's just try, work this, bring me an offer. Let's see what we can do. I don't know what is going to happen until you're into the negotiations, right? There's always something you can work at. Be open-minded, and as far as it goes, I feel like that's been a big part of my driver with my business is just being open to having conversations, picking up the phone. I actually think picking up the phone is the biggest thing people can do right now. Don't text me, pick up the phone, and then you find out so much about the other agent, you find out about the buyer, the seller. You have so much more like information and power to go back with to your client or to that realtor when you're doing those negotiations. I mean, really, if anyone takes anything away from this call or this podcast, would be just pick up your phone. you know?
100%. For me, it's like when we get an offer just through email. It used to be in the fax, right? This is
Yeah.
back for the listeners. Is like this is a little while ago, but we used to like fax in offers. It would just be
Just
sitting
a
there.
minute ago. Yeah.
Yeah, no sort of heads up. But even now with email, it's like here's an email, boom, with no sort of context and no sort of heads up, and no like they did the showing, but they just sent the email.
Yeah.
At that point, as the listing agent, I'm like the first thing I'm doing is like, oh, okay, but no, first I'm like, okay, yes, an offer came in, wonderful,
Yeah,
but then I'm like,
exactly. You're stoked.
I,
Now
I
what?
think in the back of my mind, I'm like, how is this agent sending in the offer without having any sort of context of what's important? Yeah, building a little rapport. So we take ownership there 100% and say, hey, listen, like I'm calling them right away, and then I'm building rapport and doing the best job for the seller. But I think as a buying agent, when you have an offer, like just in their best interest, because I've had it before where they sent the offer over and we just accepted an offer, right? And they just sent it and they
Oh
didn't
yeah.
go ahead. So like
Hmm.
for me, it's like when a client's like, I call them and I say, hey, listen, there's this new house that came up. I think this might be a good match. Like I'm calling the listing agent immediately, even before the showing. Is like, tell me about it. Tell me all about the property. And by doing that, actually, many times they were like, "Hey, listen, like we actually got another offer. We're going to be presenting it in like 2 hours, but if you want, like, I'll wait for you to get your showing." I'm like, 100%, let's go. And then I'm calling my client, and it's like we're going over. But if we didn't make that call ahead of time and get context and get that insight, we would have missed out on it.
Oh yeah, right. And how does that look to your client? You sat down, you went through the process, you wrote an offer with them, and then It's just, yeah, it's really unfortunate, but it's true. It's just people need to create that rapport with the other agents. That goes so far. And then it's also you can, I mean, that goes into another area where you're finding out information to improve your offer for that seller. You know, what's the best possession date that they're looking for? Is there anything specific that you think I should add to the offer? I mean, it's just nuggets, right? So,
Yeah, 100%. Because the last thing you want to do is like ask for the sofa that was a special gift from like a long lost relative that's no longer around. Like if you go and do that, like you could totally irk the seller. And so that's where it's like, is there
right.
anything else that I should know about, the offer? Here's what we're actually looking at that sofa. They're like, hey, listen, that
Yeah.
sofa is, you should not be asking because here,
Yeah.
it's like,
No.
thank you, thank you. Right. And so those little things, like
Yeah.
you're surprised, you get surprised sometimes, but this is like, it's a bigger overarching kind of mindset with, if you have like hundreds of agents in your market, and generally the top agents is who you're more frequently doing business with, like they're not the enemy. You're working together, and of course you're looking after your client, but you're building relationships to make a win-win deal. And a lot of times
Mhm.
it's not even about price. In a lot of cases, it's price is important, but like closing date is really important, or like super clean because the last offer fell through on financing. Like if you can remove that, that would mean a lot, potentially get a better price. And so the conversation ahead of time, I think we're aligned in that. It's like that's really important.
So important. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's shift a little bit here. So you're a big investor, real estate investor as well. So it's so interesting because this is one of the things that I love talking about is like, for real estate agents, it's one of the biggest regrets that I hear from real estate agents. I wish I would have bought more real estate 10 years ago. And so can you talk a little bit about like what you share the story at the very beginning, but then what did you start buying, and then what do what did you do well with, and then what are you focusing on today?
Sure. Well, yeah, I started flipping a couple little houses just to pay off some bills. And at the time, financing was a bit easier, so you could get a bit creative. And I wasn't making any money. Banks weren't interested in me, but this will totally date me. You could qualify, or I mean, you could assume a mortgage without qualifying when I first started. So I would figure out a way to borrow some money off of my uncle, and then I would assume a mortgage without qualifying, do a little bit of fixing, and then, refinance it after I got a little bit more stable. There was all kinds of little techniques I was using that unfortunately aren't available to people today. But at the time, it was single family residences, houses with suites in the basement. Then we got into picking up foreclosures in the same method, like a cash buy, fix it up, finance it, pull all the cash out, move on to the next house. So that's how it started. And then in the last, I'd say 10 years, my husband and I have gotten into purchasing properties in vacation communities. So we're really into skiing. So ski towns in BC, that kind of thing. Places where the prices are always escalating a little bit faster than the regular market. And also, I feel like if there's ever a blip in the market, the likelihood of them going down is less as far as value goes. So that's where we're at. Airbnbs.
Airbnbs right now. So is that the opportunity you're seeing out there in your market right now? Is Airbnb still in today's market?
Airbnbs have been getting hit a little bit hard with the communities. So I don't know necessarily if that's like a new opportunity people should be jumping into. Uh, the month to month rental market is really strong here. So if people are looking at getting into something, I'd probably pivot back, honestly. I'm not sure what the Airbnb rules are out in the Ontario area, but I know the ski communities here and BC is really locking down on them.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah, there's like uncertainty with like HST now,
Mhm.
and if it's going to be charged, with income, and it's like you should have charged that, and so like some. yeah, so there's question marks there on that end, which is yeah, it's tough, right? It's really tough when you're making decisions for investing. It's one of the things that we've seen in Ontario is finding cash flowing properties is very, very difficult. That
Well, even the multifamily isn't cash flowing properly, right? Like it's just you have to project, and the banks are really hard on you. It's just making it more and more challenging for people. But I feel like the single family, sort of the affordable housing, might be a nice place for people to rest if, especially if they're just trying to step into it, right? Don't stretch yourself out too far, and maybe just purchase something that's just accessible.
hmm Yeah, it's interesting with CMHC and MLI Select program, like these high leverage, lower interest, longer amortization loans. It's developers now that I'm speaking to, they're like, I'm not doing any sort of like condos or even like new construction with single family, very little because of the cost. But the stuff that is being built, and you can see it in the numbers. Ben Rabideau, he's probably one of the best like economists that I've in Canada. That he really dives into this, and he produces these reports where, I mean, it shows all the purpose built rentals and how many of them are getting built over the last couple of years. So those are all getting delivered into the market, and so it with that amount coming on, it is. It's something that I do think rents will be coming down. I mean, it's very market dependent there as well, but it's something you just got to be really aware of now when you're buying and going in. If you like cash flowing properties, is really the goal is to find an asset that's put something in your pocket at the end of the day, right? Like Kiyosaki says, and liability is something that takes money out of your pocket, and so you hope it goes up in appreciation, but you can't bank on that.
Well, and
At
that's
least
where maybe,
short term.
well, sweat equity goes a long way for
Yep.
somebody who's just getting started out, right? So if you can get into something that, maybe it's a foreclosure or a property that's been not cared for a long time, and you can get into something like that, that's a great place to start. If we're recommending places to start when people are just thinking about getting into it. And the thing is, once you're in real estate, the nice thing is you can always bounce your commission in there or use that in a way to help you get a foothold. And I mean, even really young people starting in the business, they could purchase their first home, live in it, keep it as a rental, move on. I get so excited about that for people, it's just everybody should buy a duplex or a house with a suite in the basement for their first house.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's what I did when our very first home. It was like, I remember when I was 17, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I went to the free event, this,
Yes.
this free event that then turned into $1,000 event that turned into a 5,000. And then it was just, eventually I went to a 10,000. And then my dad said, I'm not going to loan you the money for tennis. I don't want to give you I think the words were, I didn't want to give you a bullet to hurt yourself. And I'm like, okay, well, but we figured it out. We ended up getting a property, and then my mom, my sister, we bought that when I was younger, and then I was 17, and then anyways, we bought when we got married. We took that equity, bought the first place, and then we kept that first place, and then bought another. And but the point there is that getting into the market right now at all costs, like this to me, if you do not own a home right now, or if you have a family member that doesn't own a home, like encouragement, 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 please, please, please go buy a house as fast as possible. I've seen some clips where it's like renting is better than owning. And I'm like, how? And it was like the average net worth is over 200. It's like 35, 40x higher for home ownership. And so, yes, it maybe it's harder out there now, but like it's possible, and just go
Yeah.
after it 100%. And if you can keep the first house, that's always a good thing too.
What do you think about this has just been something I've been spinning around because I'm in a more affordable marketplace, but then say the Calgarys or the Torontos, is it worthwhile for somebody who's renting there to purchase in a smaller center to get a more affordable center to get their foot in a market is their first home?
So can you maybe repeat the question? So
I'm thinking, well, I've been thinking about it a bit where, so say you're in Calgary or Toronto, but it's not affordable. You can't get into a property there. It's just not accessible to you. But you could afford something in a smaller center, like an outlying community, and then you could rent that out. So then you've got, unfortunately, you're not going to be living in your first home, but you've got it as a revenue property and you're in a market.
Yeah. So here's it going back to the get into real estate at like all costs. And so what I mean by that is as soon as you're in the market, because pricing in Ontario anyways has come down about like 20-25% from the peak of the market. So everything is for sale right
Right,
now.
right,
So yes, either go drive and do the commute where you're living in it, or if everything is completely, we'll say, unaffordable and you can't commute and do that, maybe there's another market. Like maybe you go out to Medicine Hat and you buy the property out there and it's something that's more affordable, and at least you're in the market, and then you sell it in a couple of years, or you hold on to that and continue renting that out, and then you can do a refi and then buy your first place that you can live into. I think buying something that, if you're going to do that, making sure that it cash flows, it carries itself, and then you live fairly inexpensive in kind of the market that you're in. I think that, yeah, I'm on board with that rather than waiting for an extra. I think if you wait for 2 years right now, I think it's going to be harder than today, like no doubt.
oh yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. That's a good thought. I mean, it comes down to what I've realized is that if you think it's not possible, it's not possible for you. And if you think it's possible, it
Yeah,
is possible for you. There's a way to do it. Like we had one of our listings manager, she set a goal to buy a house, and she just worked away at it. And then she bought something about 30 minutes outside of town, and she does the commute. And it was a little bit of, like you said, fixer upper, some sweat equity.
yeah,
She got her first place because she set a goal and she started working towards it. And I think that's
yeah.
that's so possible. And that's a cool thing. Like you had said, you get stoked when somebody, they own a house, or maybe they rent that and they keep it and they buy, another one, and they have a rental now. I love that. And people, they remember when you help them get into that first property, and then their first investment property too. They don't forget.
Well, it's just so exciting because you know that they're investing in their future, right? Like it's not just now, today, it's down the road. And how can that not, especially when you're in the industry, right? It's just like, how could that not light you up?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Very, very encouraging. And yeah, it's a cool feeling down the road. It's like you help them make a few $100,000, and that to me is like they weren't going to do it, and you made it happen. So the
Yeah,
more you can do that, you're providing value to the marketplace, the better you're going to be rewarded as a natural byproduct, right? So
100%. So whatever you can do, get in the market, come to Medicine Hat, I'll sell you a house.
yeah, yeah, right on. What would be so average sale price? What are we about 400, 430?
Yeah, it's gone up. Yeah, it's just over 400 now. Yeah, and that's the last few years. We've had really low inventory the last few years, so it's still driving pretty hard.
Yeah, you're not getting much in Ontario for 400 unless you go way up north. Yeah.
Well, you can get a
That,
pretty nice house here for 400.
yeah, 430. That's pretty good. That's good value. Good value. All right. So, okay, we're into rapid fire here. I got 3 questions. We're going to wrap this up. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, I love reading books. What book has made the biggest impact in your career?
Well, you mentioned Rich Dad Poor Dad. That actually came to mind immediately because that was the book I read early on. Loved it. But Unreasonable Hospitality is something I've been going back to. I have it on audiobook. I've got the book. I always open it up. I put it on again and again when I'm taking a long drive. I love it. So good.
Amazing. Yeah. So, like the restaurateur, the best in the world, right? In New York, he wrote his approach.
Uh-huh,
Yeah.
yes. It's just
Yeah.
it's so good because I've always really felt that you should look to other industries to draw inspiration. And there's just so much to that one.
Yeah, so good. Um, I picked that up when Patrick Bet David he posted on. He's like, "Oh my goodness, this book's amazing." I'm like, "Oh, I better pick it up." All right. Second question is what are the 3 words that people that know you best, how would they best describe you as?
I would say collaborative. I love collaborating with anybody. I'm adventurous, trying new things all the time, and I am extremely, there's an undercurrent of driven. So
Very cool. And final question, what advice would you give the listeners out there? It can be advice on anything. What final advice would you give them?
I would say no matter where you're at in your business, if you're new, if you've been in it for 20 years, connect with a mentor, somebody that you can spin ideas with, help you grow, someone that inspires you.
So good. Right on. Well, what's the best way if the listeners out there, maybe they want to reach out, maybe they want to refer a buyer or seller, or maybe maybe it's an agent in your market that would like to learn more about joining your team. What's the best way they can reach out to you?
Instagram's great for me. So Elizabeth McNally underscore real estate. And I mean, you could just Google me. You can text me. My phone number is online. I'm happy to help with anything.
Amazing. Elizabeth, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Congratulations on your success, and really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, Mark. I really love the conversation. This has been wonderful.
Right on, guys. Well, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed the show, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel and share with any other agents that you think will benefit from it. I love you guys, and keep on going full out.